Chosen one, center your spirit right now. Do not let the loud distractions of this world steal this specific holy moment from you. Logically, you should have broken 3 days ago. You had every right to turn bitter, to let the darkness win, or to simply walk away from it all. But the fact that you are still standing despite the betrayal that cut deep, despite the heavy silence of heaven, and despite an exhaustion that sleep cannot fix, is a spiritual anomaly. You think God is silent because he is absent. No. He is silent because he is stunned. You did not just pass the test. You confused the enemy, and you captivated the entire throne room of heaven. The waiting room is officially closed. The verdict is in. And God's reaction to your victory is about to change your reality forever. Listen to me closely. This message has been trying to reach your spirit for the last 72 hours. The enemy tried everything to stop you. He tried to distract you with sudden drama, with a wave of fatigue, with noise, and even with technical glitches just to keep your thumb scrolling past this truth. But you broke through. You are here. And I need you to understand that this is not a YouTube video. This is a divine summons. It is a scheduled appointment in the spirit realm that you just walked into. Before we go any further, I need you to make a covenant with yourself right now. Do not leave this message until the very final second. I am not asking for your watch time. I am asking for your total focus, because we are about to unlock the Divine R protocol. By the end of this recording, you will understand exactly why your life has been under such heavy fire. You will receive the specific framework to handle the promotion that is coming. And we will seal this with an activation ceremony that will shift your trajectory forever. If you leave halfway, you are walking out of the operating room while the surgery is still in progress. Do not do that to your destiny. Stay, receive, and finish what God has started. Now, let us look at where you are. I want you to verify if this resonates with your spirit right now. Even as you hear my voice, you feel a heaviness. Not just a spiritual heaviness, but a physical pressure right in the center of your chest. Slightly to the left. It feels like a weight you have been carrying for weeks. You wake up in the morning and before your feet even touch the floor, you let out a sigh that sounds like it is coming from the very bottom of your soul. You are tired, but it is not the kind of tired that sleep can fix. You could sleep for 12 hours and still wake up exhausted because your spirit has been bench pressing weights in the unseen realm that most people would be crushed by. You have been sitting in a room that feels like a waiting room for months. Staring at walls that refuse to move, checking your phone for a notification that never comes, asking the ceiling god, did I fail? Did I miss the turn? Why is it so quiet? You have felt like an invisible man or an invisible woman. You walk into rooms and feel like you are behind a glass wall. You speak, but people do not seem to hear you. You help. But nobody says thank you. You give, but nobody reciprocates. And lately, there has been a specific fear creeping into your mind at 3 a.m. A cold thought that whispers, maybe I am delusional. Maybe God has forgotten me. Maybe I am just suffering for nothing. I need you to take a deep breath right now and let that air hit the back of your throat. Listen to me. That pressure on your chest, that is not depression. That is not anxiety. That is not a medical condition. In Hebrew, the word for glory is kavod. And do you know what kavod literally means? It means heavy. It means weighty. The pressure you are feeling is not the weight of the world. It is the weight of the glory that is currently settling upon your life. You are feeling heavy because God is trusting you with a massive assignment. You do not put heavy cargo on a weak ship. The fact that you are feeling this pressure is the first sign that you have been approved for the transport of something massive. But the silence. Let us talk about the silence. That is what hurts the most, isn't it? You have been loyal. You have been faithful. You have kept your hands clean when you could have gotten them dirty. And yet, heaven seems to have gone mute. No dreams, no visions, no clear voice, just static. And the enemy has been using this silence to torment you. He tells you that God has left the building. He tells you that you have been disqualified. But I am here to prophesy to your spirit today. The silence you are hearing is not the silence of abandonment. It is the silence of AWE. Picture a grandmaster chess player making a move that nobody saw coming. The entire stadium goes quiet. Nobody speaks. Nobody breathes. They are just watching. Stunned by the brilliance of the move, chosen one, you are that move. God is silent right now because He is watching you with absolute wonder. He is looking at your timeline, looking at the trauma you survived, looking at the people who walked out on you, looking at the financial cliff you are standing on. And He is stunned that you are still praising Him. He is stunned that you are still kind. He is stunned that you haven't cursed Him and died. You are a glitch in the enemy's system. The enemy's algorithm predicted you would crash 3 months ago. His data said you would be an alcoholic by now, or bitter, or vengeful. But you are here, listening to a word about God. That is why the atmosphere is silent. You have the full attention of the throne room, but here is the danger. Here is where most chosen ones miss the mark and actually fail the test at the very last second. You think God is stunned because of your endurance. You think He is impressed because you gritted your teeth and survived the pain. You think the test was about how much suffering you could swallow. And because you think that, you are bracing yourself for more suffering. You are tightening your shoulders, preparing to endure more. But I need to tell you the truth. That is not why God is stunned. Endurance is just the baseline. Endurance is what we expect from a soldier. But you are not just a soldier. You are royalty. And the test you just passed was not a test of your strength. It was a test of something far more rare, something far more dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. God is not stunned because you are strong. He is stunned because of a specific choice you made when you had the power to destroy someone. This is the secret. This is the mystery. And once you understand this, the heavy weight on your chest is going to lift instantly, because the window of heaven has opened specifically for your case today. You are about to walk into the greatest restoration of your life. But first, we must bridge the gap between your pain and your promotion. For the longest time, you have operated under a major misunderstanding about what this grueling season was actually for. You have convinced yourself that this was simply an endurance test. You look at the sleepless nights, the financial drought, and the relational betrayal. And you think, God is testing to see how much pain I can take before I finally break. You think heaven is looking for a spiritual Navy SEAL, someone who can take a massive beating and just keep marching forward. And because you think the test is about endurance, you are completely exhausted. You are burnt out because endurance is draining. Endurance is defensive. Endurance is just trying not to die. But chosen one, I need you to hear this loud and clear. Endurance was not the final test. Endurance was just the prerequisite. Any human can endure pain if they have no other choice, but that does not make them a king. Let us look at the scripture in James 1:12, which says, "Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life." Most people stop at the word perseveres, thinking it just means hanging in there. But the Greek word used for stood the test is dokimos. Listen to me. Dokimos does not mean you simply survived the fire. It is a metallurgical term used for gold and silver. It means you went into the fire. You melted down. All the impurities were skimmed off. And what came out was approved. It means you are now genuine. So if endurance was just the fire, what was the actual test? The test was not about how thick your skin is. The test was about how soft your heart remained. The spiritual anomaly that has God stunned right now is not your strength. It is your mercy. Specifically, it is your ability to show mercy when you had the absolute power, the valid reason, and the perfect opportunity to take revenge. Think back to that moment last week. You know the one I am talking about. Your heart was racing, your stomach was in knots, and you were looking at the evidence of what they did to you. The betrayal was clear. The lies were blatant. And a voice in your head, a very loud, very logical, human voice screamed, "Destroy them." It said, "Expose them. Send the screenshot. Ruin their reputation like they ruined yours. You have the ammunition. You have the right. Do it." That is the natural human reaction. That is the law of karma. An eye for an eye. But then, you did something that makes no logical sense. You paused, you felt that heat in your chest, but you did not let it out. You looked at the weapon in your hand, that damaging information, that cutting comeback, and you put it down. You deleted the draft. You walked away from the argument. You chose silence when you could have chosen violence. That specific split-second decision is what stunned God. That is the mercy anomaly. Because endurance is natural, but mercy, when you are bleeding, is supernatural. That is divine DNA activating in a human vessel. When you chose not to strike back, you showed heaven that you can be trusted with power. Because if you cannot stop yourself from destroying an enemy when you are weak, God certainly cannot trust you with the power to destroy nations when you are strong. The test was never about whether you could take a punch. It was about whether you would throw one back. And you passed. You kept your heart soft in a season designed to make it stone hard. But I hear your thoughts spinning right now. You are thinking, but if I show mercy, won't they just do it again? Am I just being a doormat? Actually, it is the ultimate form of power. But to wield it without getting destroyed, you need a strategy. There is an ancient paradox, a specific spiritual maneuver that King David used to turn his greatest enemy into his footstool without ever lifting a sword. It is called the Davidic Paradox. And if you want to walk into your promotion tomorrow, you need to understand how this paradox creates a vacuum that God rushes in to fill, shifting the battle from your hands into His. To truly understand the Davidic Paradox, I need you to mentally walk with me into a specific, high-stakes moment in history. We are stepping into the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 24. But we are not just reading words on a page. I want you to step directly into the scene. Imagine the smell of damp limestone and the heavy, stale air of the wilderness. Suffocatingly hot. You are hiding in the very back of a cave in the desert of En-Gedi. Your heart is pounding against your ribs so hard you are terrified the sound will echo off the cavern walls. You are David. You have been anointed by God to be the next king. But right now, you are living like a hunted animal, chased by Saul, the man you served with total loyalty. Suddenly, the sunlight at the mouth of the cave is blocked. A silhouette steps in. It is Saul. The man who wants you dead is now alone and completely vulnerable. He is unaware that you and your men are standing just a few feet away in the shadows. Zoom into this moment. This is the ultimate test. This is not a battle. It is an execution. Your men are whispering urgently in your ear. They are saying, "Look, David, this is the day the Lord spoke of. He has delivered your enemy into your hand. Do it. End the misery. Take the throne now." Listen to their logic. It sounds like prophecy. It sounds like justice. Psst. Killing Saul would solve every single one of your problems in 1 second. No more running, no more hiding. Every logical fiber in your body is screaming, "Strike, now." But David does something that stuns the angels watching from the balcony of heaven. He creeps forward, knife in hand. He gets close enough to hear Saul's breathing. He is close enough to end it all. But instead of slicing Saul's throat, David gently slices the corner of Saul's robe. Why the robe? In that culture, the hem of a robe signified a man's authority and his rank. By cutting the hem, David was sending a clear spiritual signal. I hold your reputation, I hold your authority, and I hold your very life in my hand. I could take it all, but I choose not to. This is the Davidic Paradox. The paradox is this: you do not win the throne by killing the king. You win the throne by sparing him. True power is not displayed when you destroy someone who is weaker than you. True power is displayed when you have the absolute ability to destroy them, but you choose to restrain yourself. So how do you apply this to your life tomorrow morning? The Davidic Paradox operates on 2 movements, restrain and release. Step 1 is restrain. This is the hardest thing you will ever do. It is having the nuclear codes and choosing not to push the button. In your life, the sword is not a metal blade. The sword is that screenshot you have saved on your phone right now. The sword is the secret you know about that coworker who has been sabotaging you. The sword is the scathing, brilliant email you have drafted in your head. The enemy wants you to use that sword. He wants you to leak the secret. He wants you to post the screenshot because if you do, you might win the argument. But you will lose the anointing. You will lower yourself from a king to a common brawler. Restraint means you look at the evidence that could ruin them, and you keep it in the dark cave. Step 2 is release. After David cut the robe, his conscience bothered him. He walked out and shouted to Saul, "May the Lord judge between you and me, but my hand will not touch you." That is the release. You are handing the court case over to the supreme judge of the universe. You are saying, "God, I am stepping out of the judgment seat so you can sit in it." And let me tell you, God is a much more thorough judge than you could ever be. When you try to get revenge, you can only affect their circumstances. But when God deals with them, He deals with their soul. I want to prove to you that this protocol works in the real world. I want to tell you about a chosen one named Sarah, who stood at the edge of her own cave of En-Gedi just 6 months ago with a weapon in her hand and a decision that would change everything. Let me prove to you that this protocol works in the real world. 6 months ago, a chosen one we will call Sarah found herself standing at the mouth of her own cave of En-Gedi. She discovered undeniable evidence of her husband's betrayal on his phone. The pain was a physical blade, cutting deeper than any knife. She had the screenshots, the names, and the addresses, enough ammunition to ruin his life, and the other woman's reputation forever. Her friends and advisors, acting just like David's men, screamed at her, "Burn it all down. They deserve to suffer. Expose them." Sarah sat in her car for hours, her thumb hovering over the send button. Every wounded part of her soul screamed for justice. But right then, she felt a heavy check in her spirit. She remembered the Davidic Paradox. She realized that while exposing them would satisfy her rage for a minute, it would destroy God's ability to perform a miracle. So, she did the impossible. She restrained. She kept the evidence, but she refused to use it as a weapon. She confronted him with the truth in private, then cutting the corner of the robe, but she did not destroy him in public. She handed the case to the supreme judge and endured 6 weeks of agonizing silence. Go ahead. It looked like she was losing. It looked like she was a doormat. But then, because she stepped out of the way, God stepped in. The weight of conviction fell on her husband so hard he couldn't sleep. Without her nagging or public shaming, he had a radical encounter with God in a hotel room miles away. He came back, not just sorry, but transformed. She won her family back not by fighting, but by sparing. That is the explosive power you hold right now when you choose to confuse the kingdom of darkness with mercy. But I know the logical objection rising in your throat. You are thinking, that's great for Sarah, but if I stay silent, won't they just reload and trample over me again? You are terrified that forgiveness equals weakness. That fear is the single biggest barrier to your breakthrough. You think being humble means being soft and harmless. But let me correct a mistranslation that has plagued your mind for years. When Jesus said, "Blessed are the meek," he used the Greek word praus. In ancient Greek military culture, praus was not used for a weakling. It described a war horse, a stallion with 3,000 pounds of muscle, designed for fury and war, but perfectly submitted to the bit in its mouth. The horse didn't lose its strength. It brought its power under total authority. Meekness is not weakness. Meekness is dangerous. Power under control. A rabbit cannot show mercy because a rabbit has no power to destroy. Only a lion can show mercy. Only a warrior can show restraint. When you restrain yourself, you aren't saying you are weak. You are saying, "I am so powerful and so disciplined by the Spirit of God that I choose not to crush you, even though I have the evidence to do it in 5 minutes." That is not being a doormat. That is being a king. Why are you so obsessed with the opinion of the props on your stage? You've been performing for your enemies, trying to prove your strength to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Shift your gaze right now. Look past the critics and the betrayers. The auditorium of your life is not empty. It is filled with a cloud of witnesses. David is there, leaning over the railing, shouting, "Look, that is the spirit of a king." Joseph is standing on his feet, cheering because he sees his own DNA in you. And in the center of them all, Jesus is watching you, the one who stayed silent before Pilate. He is your only audience. The only applause that counts is the applause of heaven. When you realize this, the trap snaps open, and you are finally free. You are not fighting like a survivor anymore. You are operating like a sovereign. God is waiting for 3 specific moves from you starting tomorrow morning, moves that will force a shift in your reality that no devil can stop. I call this the Divine R Protocol, and it is the key to your total restoration. The Divine R Protocol is not just a nice suggestion. It is a spiritual law that signals to heaven you have graduated from a survivor to a sovereign. You need to memorize these steps because the next time you are attacked, your survival instincts will scream at you to do the exact opposite. Move number 1 is the sovereign silence. This is fundamentally different from the silence of fear. Fear is silent because it is afraid of what might happen. Sovereign silence is silent because it already knows the final outcome. Look at Jesus standing before Pilate. Pilate had the worldly authority to kill him, and he was demanding answers, trying to get Jesus to defend himself. But Jesus gave him absolutely no fuel. Why? Because a defendant argues his case, but a king simply declares his will. When you argue with your accuser, you are stepping down from your throne to stand in the mud with them. You are validating their lies by dignifying them with a response. From now on, when someone misrepresents you, let the lie hang in the air. When you refuse to defend yourself, you are forcing God to be your defense attorney, and he has never lost a single case. Move number 2 is the table. This comes straight from Psalm 23, where it says, God prepares a table for you in the presence of your enemies. Notice the location, the enemy is still there, but God has set a table of abundance right in front of their face. Here is the strategy you cannot eat and fight at the same time. If you leave the table to fight the enemy, you starve. But if you stay at the table and feast on the blessings God is giving you, the enemy has to watch you prosper while they stay hungry. The greatest revenge is not destruction. It is visible, undeniable acceleration. Treat your enemy like furniture in the room. You don't talk to it. You don't fight it. You just eat. Move number 3 is the nuclear option. The blessing. Jesus said to bless those who curse you. This is a strategic weapon, not a poetic sentiment. When you bless an enemy, you create a spiritual short circuit. Darkness cannot comprehend light. By releasing a frequency of love, you confuse the demonic spirits operating behind that person. I want you to mentally see the face of the person who hurt you most and say, I bless them. That resistance you feel in your gut, that is your ego dying. And that is exactly where your power begins. Does this work in the real world? Ask Michael, a creative director who was being sabotaged by a manipulative manager. This manager stole Michael's ideas and presented them to the CEO as his own. Michael had the proof, the timestamps, and the raw rage to destroy him. But he chose the divine R protocol. He stayed in sovereign silence during the meeting. He moved to the table by working even harder on the next phase. And he applied the blessing by praying for that manager every morning on his drive to work. The result: 3 weeks later, the CEO called Michael in. He had noticed the manager couldn't explain the strategy he claimed was his. But what impressed the CEO more was that Michael never complained, never badmouthed him, and just kept delivering excellence. The manager was let go, and Michael wasn't just promoted to his spot, he was made vice president of strategy, skipping 2 levels of management. He was promoted over the very seat that tried to crush him. That is the power of the protocol. It takes the battle out of human logic and places it into divine jurisdictions. But I must give you a critical warning. When you activate this flare in the spirit realm, the enemy is not going to stand down. He is going to change his tactics. Within the next 40 days, you will face 7 specific counterstrikes designed to make you pick up the sword you just laid down. If you don't recognize these traps, you will abort your promotion before it even arrives. You are now entering a high alert zone, and you must stay focused because the enemy is starving. And a starving predator is the most dangerous one you will ever face. Why does the enemy attack you more intensely when you choose mercy over revenge? It is simple economics. The kingdom of darkness feeds on low vibrational energy strife, bitterness, and offense. When you engage in conflict, you are literally setting a dinner table for demonic spirits. But the moment you choose the divine R protocol, you cut off their food supply. You are starving the enemy out of your environment. And a starving predator is an angry, desperate predator. Not leave quietly. For the next 40 days, you are entering a high alert zone. The enemy will launch strategic counterstrikes designed to trigger your ego and make you pick up the sword you just laid down. The first strike is the victim bait. Within 24 hours, someone you forgave will do something petty, or a stranger will be unnecessarily rude. The enemy is fishing. He wants you to say, "See, they don't deserve my mercy." Do not bite. Recognize the hook and swim past it. The second strike is the gossip trap. You will feel an overwhelming urge to tell your friends how holy you were for forgiving that person. Stop. The moment you broadcast your humility, you leak your power. True mercy is silent. If you have to boast about it, you haven't actually forgiven, you are just posturing. Keep this secret between you and God. Now, we must prepare the vessel. If God pours the heavy weight of His glory into a vessel cracked by trauma or leaking with bitterness, it will not sustain you, it will crush you. We are doing deep spiritual surgery right now. Visualize your internal man standing up. Your spiritual spine is straight. You are standing at the gates of the Supreme Court of Heaven. I begin the sealing process. I seal your eyes against the illusion of fear. I seal your ears against the frequency of gossip. I seal your mouth, the gate of your authority. Your tongue will no longer be a sword of destruction, but a tree of life. I seal your heart against the spirit of offense. It is becoming Teflon to betrayal, it will slide right off. I issue the decree of Shalom over your life. Shalom means nothing missing, nothing broken, and fully repaid. I speak to the devourer that has been eating your finances, loose your hold. I decree a sevenfold return on every dollar stolen and every promotion blocked. I speak to the locusts that ate your time, the delay is over. What should take 10 years will now happen in 10 months. Chosen one, do you accept the mantle of the Davidic king? Do you promise to rule with mercy? If your answer is yes, then shout it in your spirit now. I am ready. My time is now. Let that confession vibrate through the heavens. It is established. It is done. You are dismissed from the waiting room. You are released into your destiny. The test is graded. The score is perfect. The reward is released. Do not rush away. Sit in this holy silence and let the reality of your victory settle into your bones. You are the chosen one, and God is absolutely stunned by you. The journey of the chosen one is not about surviving the fire, but about emerging purified. The ultimate power is not found in the ability to destroy your enemies, but in the sovereign choice to spare them. When you master your own spirit, you master your world. If you pass the test of mercy and you are ready for your promotion, comment 999 below. If you are still processing or have feedback on how we can improve this journey for you, please comment 0 or share your thoughts. Your perspective matters to us. And do not forget to subscribe to the channel to fuel our mission of empowering the chosen ones. The promotion has begun.